Hello there, fellow NPCs. I am Scythe, and today we're headed for the good ending on Ulyana's path in Everlasting Summer. In the last episode, we had just finished the actual gameplay of Ulyana's path, but because I had already reached past 40 minutes of recording time, I didn't want to spend another 40 minutes going through this epilogue, because these epilogues in this game are so freaking long. It is actually one of the reasons why I can't give it a 10. It's actually dropping a lot of points because of the amount of a massive amounts of reading in this game. But yeah, either way, we're headed to the good end here right now. This is called the epilogue. I saved at the epilogue. So yeah, let's see how the good ending goes for Ulyana. Let's go. It felt like I hadn't slept at all. It happens all the time. You just close your eyes and fall asleep. The hour hand makes several turns. The morning comes and you wake up, but it feels like you just blinked. I yawned so wide that I almost broke my jaw and jumped up because of the pain. Something was wrong. Though not something. Everything was wrong. I was back in my apartment. But how can that be possible? I began to panic and I started to run around my room in the hope of calming myself down. Physical tiredness can often overcome an emotional one. My head was empty. Fear and terror took over my whole being, and some kind of a song was floating in my head. Maybe a prayer, or maybe just an incoherent jumble of thoughts designed, if not to calm me down, then at least to distract me from my panic. It was about half an hour before I collapsed on the floor, exhausted, and fixed my eyes on the ceiling. It seemed like I had not gone anywhere. The old chandelier looked down at me unkindly with its dusty lamps. The cracks in the plaster were in the same places, and the unstuck wallpaper hadn't slipped down even a little. Was it really a dream? But it can't be. It just can't be. I spent an entire week in that pioneer camp. I was definitely there. I remember everything perfectly, from my awakening aboard the bus right up to the departure. Neither dreams nor hallucinations can be that real. Somehow, I stood up, went to the kitchen, filled a glass with water and returned to the room. The blood was still hammering in my temples, but at least the terror of the first few minutes was gone. Or had just taken a break. I concentrated on the last thing I remembered. It was the departure from the camp. The night, the bus bouncing over the bumps, the dirty murky glass, beyond which almost nothing was visible, and the pioneers. It had been absolutely positive that I would never return. Or just didn't think about it. Anyway, I was prepared for our arrival at the district center in a few hours, and was already considering options for my further actions. Or not. Damn it. I roared and pulled on my hair with all my strength. I can't remember! The last hours in the world emerged into a monotonous mirage, as if a drunken Renoir was completing his painting with a roller instead of a brush. But it's not that bad. Wait a minute, why would it be bad? On the contrary, everything is fine. I would even say perfect. I've broken free of that goddamn world and returned home. The most important thing now is not to end up there again. It might happen, surely it could. But it might not happen as well. Indeed, I have nothing to worry about now. Everything will be fine. Obviously, I was just seeing things. Exactly, I was seeing things. It doesn't matter that everything felt that real. Something like that just can't happen. It can't. I claim with all due confidence that it just can't. Modern science claims it's impossible. Not allowed. I laughed loudly. Did it go insane? An inner voice tried to stop the verbal diarrhea spouting from my mouth, but it didn't succeed. It feels like my speech and thoughts are separating to exist on their own, independent from each other. My brain prompted me to calm down and try to analyze the situation, while my tongue simply tried to ease the stress by throwing new meaningless words out into the air. Finally, I was somehow able to pull myself together. I pulled the curtains open and looked out the window. The night city looked exactly the same as it did a week ago. The view brought my mind back to reality, at least to some extent. After all, if everything is now normal and nothing suspicious or supernatural is happening, then wasn't it just a dream? Essentially, there are only two options now. I can agree that it was just a dream and calm down. Or I can trust my own feelings and accept that the camp, the bus and the pioneers were real. Either way, whatever I choose, I won't get any answers. It's funny, I was looking for these answers for a whole week, or at least pretending to, and found nothing. But I broke free from that weird world anyway. And what now? The enigma remains and additional questions have surfaced. In the end, I was exhausted and fell onto the bed. In a few seconds, I was snoring blissfully. Much time has passed from the moment I came back from the Sovyunok, and a lot has changed in my life. The first week I was racking my brains trying to summarize in detail everything that had happened, creating graphs and diagrams, writing to forums discussing paranormal phenomena. I even planned to visit a psychic. In the end, it resulted in nothing, just as one would expect. It's no wonder. I was just a human being, but these events obviously were the affair of a supreme being, supreme mind. If a caveman found himself in the early 21st century, even he would understand more than me. Well, at first he would think that the cell phone that transmits someone's speech dozens kilometers away by the will of God is a miracle. But one can get used to it. Maybe, if he completed secondary and higher technical education, he would even be able to understand how mobile communications work. That is actually sort of true. Not a caveman, of course, because Homo erectus, I guess it might have been, or something like that, were a different species than Homo sapiens sapiens that we are. But essentially, a person from the 1500s would be as smart as a person is today, because his brain is still the same. The thing is only that they hadn't come up with a bunch of stuff back then. We have everything recorded from several hundred, even 1,000 years ago, so we have stuff to draw from. Our brain is not evolving in the same sense, it's just that we have access to stuff so that we can learn. So bringing someone from the past, erasing them in the future, would make them just as smart as anyone else. That's my understanding of it. It's a basic, exaggerated example, just as unreal as everything I experienced. I'm unlikely to ever understand how it worked or who was behind it, and I doubt that I could get used to it if it were to happen again. But one question troubled me ever since. Why? Why me? What did I, or did I not, do to deserve this bad or good luck? Sure, in sci-fi novels, wonders often occur to quite ordinary people, but that was just a matter of chance. But I was absolutely positive that these events have occurred for some reason, just like a random sci-fi hero who traveled 1,000 years forward in time, leaving him in the wrong time and place. But in the future no one knew him. Everyone thought that he was just a madman. But in my situation, they were expecting me at the camp, at least the camp leader was. How should I respond to that? Maybe I was picked out at random to be studied later on. Even so, the question why not only still stands, but rather becomes even more important. After not finding any sufficient explanation, I returned to my usual existence. But now I wasn't just sitting at the computer 24/7, wiping the F5 button free of dust. New interests came into my life, but what they were, I couldn't tell myself. And suddenly I wanted to get a high education. Not to find a job, and not because it's necessary, just because I remembered how much fun I'd had during the first year of education. Chatting with course mates, days of light-hearted youthful fun, plenty of the energy that I'd lacked so much over the last few years. A truly great man once said, "Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking." It's hard to argue with that logic. Dude, that is the exact description of this guy. A man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. Dude, that explains this guy perfectly. I've been saying that since the first run, I think. God damn. An ordinary man will not sit around because he is lazy, but because a given subject is just of no interest to him. For instance, I'm not interested in knitting, so does it mean that I'm a slacker if I don't make a couple of woolen sweaters per month? But feeling too lazy to open a book, that's something I can understand. Although I like reading, when I start thinking that I've got to get through a huge novel, page by page, and even if it's interesting, even if it absorbs me so completely that I can't turn away, that part will only come later. For now, all I need is to get a book from a shelf and open it, but I feel too lazy. I don't know what exactly influenced me, but about a half of my time, instead of the 5 to 10% of it from before, I was occupied with something useful. I read, wrote, studied something new, and engaged in sports. At least I exercised in the morning. Sometimes I thought that it was the influence of the camp. One can't rule out that possibility. For all 7 days that I was participating in social activities, verbal communication with others in amounts that before would have caused terror and severe introversion in me. On the other hand, it's not so easy to change one's personality in a single week, especially for someone as stubborn as me. But it is easy to point them in a new direction, show them a guiding line. However, I'd never believed that it would be possible with me. Anyway, I enjoy these changes so much that I tried not to think about their causes. What the hell? Nobody would worry about the why if I managed to hit the jackpot by betting his last pair of trousers. In summer, I re-enrolled at the university and started in autumn. Time passed, I eagerly attended lectures and seminars and studied for tests and examinations with a level of enthusiasm that I wouldn't have expected for myself. That's strange. That's a wrong sentence. I managed to become a part of the group with surprising ease. Although I was older than most students, it didn't trouble me. Maybe it's because of my natural immaturity or changes in my personality. I didn't know for sure. Most likely the answer is somewhere in the middle. The joy of communicating with people, lost many years ago, returned. It was easy to get along with others. Their problems didn't seem so distant and trivial to me. Normal life, which before I had considered just a grey, depressing mass, started to shine with new colors. Sometimes it seemed to me that it turned into a doll, became one of a billion identical tin soldiers standing in straight rows on a shelf in a toy shop. But in this shop, apart from the glowing showcase that sparkled with fancy writing described new seasons offers and Christmas discounts, was a storage, where all the defective products were thrown. A teddy bear without a paw, a firefighter's truck in need of a mechanic, a transformer who looked more like a microwave than a mighty robot, jigsaw puzzle with assembled into trippy post-modernistic pictures. My place used to be among those broken toys. And while some of them could take refuge in a charity drive or an orphanage, my only fate was being dumped and recycled again. So I couldn't help enjoying such changes in my life. It was the last lesson of the hardest subject this term. Most students didn't like it, because of its difficulty and their hard to understand teacher, I suppose. But I found a kind of pleasure in dealings with tables, graphs and diagrams. Counting the figures by pieces, I arranged them in columns and lines in right order, summing up, subtracting, dividing and multiplying, and using them to get a precise picture of any event. No number could avoid my attentive gaze. All of them would be captured, calculated, analyzed. Each of them would get an index number and a place in the proper cell. After its arrival, every digit will be assigned a bunk, work uniform and off-duty clothes and will be sent to perform its designated task. Some will be digging in a trench from 9 to 5, some will march off to face the trends, and some will be trying to hit a linear regression on the shooting range. What are you thinking about? Reluctantly, I stopped writing and gazed at my classmates. Taking notes on the lecture, as you can see. Oh, just screw it. Just read the workbook afterwards. I'll read the workbook as well. I'm always astonished by you. What's so astonishing? You're planning to gain a first-class diploma, aren't you? Never thought of it. Don't tell me you really find it interesting. I remember that just a moment ago I imagined myself emblazoned on a banner borne aloft by a regiment of digits and couldn't help smiling. You won't even need all this stuff. Everything will be needed. At least for general development. The classmate grinned sarcastically. I bet you never read even a single book in your whole life. So what? He asked challengingly. You're stating a fact. Are you always somewhere up in the clouds? He was right about that. Although I'd regained part of my lost social skills, I often slipped out of touch with reality, dreaming of something else. Say it's like it's a bad thing. And there's nothing wrong with not reading books either. Human beings can't have only material needs. I said philosophically, mocking him. Oh, you're such a downer. Yawn. The lecture was approaching its end and I began to plan out the rest of the day. Need to buy some groceries and later finish a project and send it to a client. And then I got to write down notes. And then in the evening I can just read or watch something. Unless someone phones or writes to me, there are no urgent matters so I can spare some time for my mates. Oh, 5 whole minutes to go. I looked at my phone and realized that it's exactly a year after I returned from the Soviet pioneer camp. My soul felt warmer from such thoughts, and I smiled blissfully. It's not often anymore that I recall those events. Obviously, one can't just forget something like that. Those moments of something bizarre and extraordinary that are engraved in my memory forever. Normally, even the happiest moments fade and just reminiscences of them remain, nothing more. But the week spent in Soviet was different. I remember everything in perfect detail. The terror of the first minutes after waking up in the bus, the first day, hard, full of surprises and amazing acquaintances, cheerful and carefree pranks with Ulyana. Just take that trick with the ghosts, for instance. Best Soviet comedians would envy it. And the pioneers had such expressions. They were dying laughing. It sure would be nice to meet Ulyana in real life. Well, she's not always perfect, she's hyperactive and she doesn't have any idea about good manners, but one doesn't meet such a sincere, carelessly cheerful or energetic person very often. Maybe she gave me some of that energy to me. Yeah, exactly. That is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying when I mean that they represent things. Things that he needs to have a better life. The bell rang. My classmate stood up, said his goodbyes and left. I started packing my exercise books and textbooks into my backpack when I suddenly heard someone's voice in front of me. Excuse me, is this the 34th lecture hall? There's a sign on the door. No, there's not. Girl's voice sounded offended. Someone must have removed it. So, is it the 34th? Yeah. At least I closed the backpack and raised my head, intending to stand up. The girl looked terribly familiar. It is unfortunate how bad she looks in this image. I do not like her design here. Haven't we... Yes, I thought the same. They remember each other? I did not expect anyone to remember him. She looked very surprised. But I don't remember where I could have met you. Neither do I. What year are you in? First year. Oh, still pretty much green. The girl smiled. Everything is still ahead of me. As if I'm already past everything. And what about you? Fourth. So, is it difficult to study? For the first year it is. I knew it. She said in an upset manner. But it gets easier with time. It's always easier when you get used to it. Sometimes I'm too lazy to do things. Yeah, that also happens. Do you still have any of that? Do you still have any stuff from the first year? If you share it, it'll be easy for me to prepare for examinations. Obviously I had nothing. My first year was finished a long time ago. But I suddenly felt a strong desire to ask for her phone number. So I lied. Yeah, maybe. But I'll have to check. That's great. We exchanged our telephone numbers. My name is Semyon. What should I call you? Ulyana. And then I realized who the girl reminded me of. Exactly. She's Ulyana. Just around 5 years older. So, 18, 19. For a moment, I was lost for words. What? It's an ordinary name. That was Lenin's name. It was? I had no idea about that. I thought Lenin was Lenin, you know? She said, pouting. No, just... Have you ever been to a pioneer camp? When I was a kid. Why are you asking? In the blink of an eye, all the events that happened in Soviet flashed in front of my eyes. So it wasn't a dream. Although they were just summer camps, not pioneer ones, Ulyana added. So you weren't wearing a uniform? The one with a red neckerchief? Of course not. Fashion police alert. Oh, she's a fashionista, huh? She laughed loudly. But why are you asking? I was about to tell her everything, but then realized that she would just consider me a psycho. After all, this girl was much older than the Ulyana I remembered. Maybe she just looks like her. I had a dream, and I think I saw you there. A kind of deja vu. Deja what? It's when someone sees something for the first time but believes that he has seen it before. Well, now that you mention it, her face became serious. I think I've seen you somewhere as well. Definitely. Maybe it's just that thing that you said. An interesting coincidence, don't you think? I don't know. Anyway, I'll give you a call. See ya. She laughed and ran out of the room. Appearance, behavior, way of talking, she's definitely that exact Ulyana. So does that mean the dream is coming true? I can't help but enjoy it. And above all, I'll see this forever cheerful girl again for sure. And that is the good ending. Every story has its beginning and its end. Every story has its own outline, synopsis, content, key points, prologue and an epilogue. And there is no book which, if you read it again, would not reveal new details you didn't notice before. Every story has its beginning and its end. Almost every. Ooh, that was very sweet. I didn't expect it to be over so soon though. But yeah, that is the end of Ulyana's Good Path. And we're actually I'm going to skip this part and we're going to start the bad ending, or rather set up that part. So most likely we will start the bad ending in the next video, I think. We'll see how it all goes, but I'll see you guys soon. And we're back, and we have to skip and go back to this place at this point in time, and we have to blame Ulyana. Now, because we are on the Ulyana path, and now we have to say it's her fault. She has told me to do this. So she will hate me for it. Now, let's continue. I pointed my finger at Ulyana. She looked at me strictly in turn. Nobody's accusing you of anything, said Slavy without looking at me. At least there's one sensible person among all present here. Yet, she added under her breath. What? Everything was exactly as I told you. Ulyana joined the conversation. We were just watching a film and then I felt sleepy. It was so late. Oh, is that really all that changes? I'm just gonna change the settings here so I only skip the stuff I've seen. And then we'll see. Yeah! It's all the same. That's... Oh, here we go. Now it's different stuff. Because I no longer have 9 points. I have 5 points. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to pack my stuff too. She didn't reply, so I left the cabin. Well, it looks like my last mission in this camp is complete. Ulyana's sentence was overturned after all. The only thing left for me is to leave this place and get ready for something new. I swept my eyes around the room and as I entered the camp leader's cabin. Do I have anything to pack anyway? I stuffed my winter clothes into a bag and took a seat on the bed. I was haunted by an agonizing feeling of incompleteness, either deja vu or a feeling that I forgot something. But still, I can't remember what it was exactly. When all is said and done, I haven't managed to find any answers here, and now I'll have to continue my quest elsewhere. Does it really matter how and why I came here, if it's not possible to escape? And it seems that nothing's up to me anyway. Everything seemed simpler before. Sure, I had no major prospects, my perspectives were hardly mind-blowing, but at least everything was pretty much clear. Yet the week I've spent here raised more issues than my whole previous life. The clock struck 5 o'clock. I took the bag and walked quickly to the bus stop, worried they might leave without me. It appeared that the bus was already waiting there, as well as all the pioneers. Everyone's here? Began Olga Dmitrievna. You're leaving our camp today and I'd like to tell you something important. Well, we've seen this, so let's see how far we can go. No, we haven't. Okay, this is also new. Oh. She was visibly nervous and desperately lost for words. I hope that you'll remember the time you spent here for a lifetime and that you'll retain only pleasant memories about Sovyanok. I also hope that you became at least a little bit better, managing to learn something and found new friends. Just come back next year. The camp leader turned around. It seemed that she was trying to hold back her tears. I didn't expect her to get so emotional. Although her speech sounded like a complete nonsense, as usual. The pioneers slowly started to get on the bus. I ran an eye over the crowd looking for Ulyana. Where is Ulyana? She won't be going. The leader answered shortly. Why? How? Why? She's grounded. What did you do this time? Jesus. But you said... She said it again. Oh, what do you mean? Hey, get inside, or they'll leave without you. Indeed, I was the last man standing outside. Wait a second. Move it. She nudged me onto the bus. I decided not to argue. Here, at the end, I can't be held responsible for her, however, forever. Here we go again. If she's going to be so stubborn, then it's up to her to face the consequences. I took the last seat. There was no partner for me, which I was fine with at the moment. However, soon enough, Alyssa moved to sit next to me. Where's Ulyana? Stayed. Why? Grounded. I gave one-word reply, showing no interest in conversation. Why? Dunno. And what, you haven't even tried to find out? Is it worth staying back for? You should. For what? If you want, you can stay. We haven't gone far. Yeah. She said calmly and went off to her place. Slavia and Senya were sitting in front seats and talking with enthusiasm about something. Lena, Miku, Shuri, Electronic were sitting closer to me and playing cards. Alyssa and some other girl were looking through a magazine. Probably, I was the only one who had nothing much to do. I caught myself thinking that I still felt a bit guilty about what happened to Ulyana. But what could I do? If I'd stayed together with her, I would have probably missed my only chance to leave. And in my position, playing such games would prove fatal. And apart from that, enough is enough. Yet, still I couldn't stop thinking about her. That I'm at fault, that I've acted cowardly, done a bad thing, that anyone in my shoes would have... But why? Anyway, who is she to me that I need to take risks for her sake? It was even harder to answer this question. During the week I spent here, I got to know her and the others quite well. In the end, I felt responsible for Ulyana in some way. But what's the point of thinking about it now? I'm leaving this pioneer camp. I'm heading into the unknown. Starting from this moment, I have to make all my decisions based on the assumption that this world is alien to me and, most probably, hostile. And I have no one to rely on. Although, thinking about it, such state of affairs isn't too new for me. I was always alone in the past. Sovionok has been left far behind me. Night has fallen on this strange world. It was so dark that it seemed the bus was floating across a bluish and black ocean, and only sometimes would gloomy forest and fields reaching to the horizon rise like waves from its surface. Anyway, the surrounding were the least of my concerns now. I was knee-deep in my reflection. It feels to me like I have some unfinished business back at the camp, even though I can't go back there now. Bad things, good things, everything will be forgotten soon, leaving only the fact of my appearance here, the end of my old life and the beginning of a new one. Practically speaking, it's nothing fancy, just an 80s pioneers camp that I was being beamed to from my own time. In any case, I'd rather worry about what's waiting for me at the town we're heading for. After all, I got nowhere to return to. I have no home, no money, no friends or relatives. All these pioneers that I'll part ways with in a few hours, I won't see any of them ever again. And them, I don't think that they will remember me in a couple of years. It's not a big deal for them. To them, I'm not the time traveler but a common boy, their peer. The road seemed endless. Most of the pioneers were long asleep, yet I was still fighting the urge to take a nap. It's always better to enter the unknown while remaining awake, though the unknown always has an edge in this battle, the flow of time that it is able to control as it sees fit. You wait a minute, an hour, but nothing happens. Your nerves, already strung out to their limits, finally surrender to the stress, and you just fall asleep. Okay, so we're waking up now. Day sometime in the future. Bad ending. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it all. It felt like I hadn't slept at all. It happens all the time. You just close your eyes and fall asleep. The hour hand makes several turns. The morning comes and you wake up, but it feels like you just blinked. We've seen this, so let's see how far we go. There we go. Maybe she gave some of that energy to me. It makes the fact she had to stay behind even sadder. Of course, it's just a dream, a figment of my imagination. Although you still can worry about the book and film characters. One laughs and cries with them and feels their pain. Same thing for me. It seems that if I had acted differently, this story would have had an even more joyful, happy end. However, I'm sure that Ulyana is happy in that world. I just can't imagine her being upset for longer than 5 minutes. Her optimism will help to find her a way, even if the most difficult situations. I wonder what she will look like when she grows up. The bell rang. My classmate stood up and looked at me keenly. Okay, see ya. Can I crib notes from you later? If you had been writing down your own during the lecture, you wouldn't need any. So, can I? Okay, fine. Cheers! He smiled and left the lecture hall. And we're alone again, but no Ulyana this time. Slowly I packed all of my exercise book and textbooks up in my backpack and looked around in the empty hall. For a moment, I could almost smell the knowledge in the air, like sea salt in the air on the deck of a ship. Thousands and thousands of students came here to study, to learn something new or to forget something they used to know. Some slipped through the lectures, some wrote them down attentively, just like me, but nobody was completely indifferent. Those who didn't care stayed home, pulled the curtains across the windows and fixed their eyes on a monitor, like you had done for the past couple of years. I sighed reluctantly, left the lecture hall with a firm intention of not wasting this day. It doesn't end there, does it? Is that where it ends? That's where it ends! Every story has its beginning and its end. It all ends with him just learning to grow, but not ending up knowing Ulyana. What the hell? That's a very disappointing end. Every story has its own outline, synopsis, content, key points, a prologue and an epilogue. And there is no book which, if you read again, would not reveal new details you didn't notice before. Every story has its beginning and its end. Almost every. And that's the ending, that's the bad ending. She's just removed from this world, essentially. That is an extremely boring way to do it. I don't think... Well, it was a similar thing with Alyssa now that I think about it. But I still felt different. I don't know. This one felt less than mediocre, you know. But yeah, we got to squeeze in the good ending and the bad ending in one video. And in the next one, we're starting the Slavia path. So yeah, I will be seeing you guys back then. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you Joseph for donating directly to my Ko-fi page. If you guys want to help me out, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Goodbye everyone.